Hello! Oh, that looks like we're cooking. Okay. Hey, everybody. You made it. I made it. You should be able to hear me now. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear everything all right. I can't pick this guitar up without wanting to play Neil Young. Nope. All right, tell me where you're coming from, everybody. So I can see everybody coming in. The Sunshine State. Nope, can't do that one. Rocked a nut. Hello from the UK. Hello, Edmonton, Canada. Norfolk. Hey, everybody. Justin Bogues? Pose. Anyway, I don't know. Winston-Salem, North Kakalaki. Los Angeles. Jose. Hey, man. How are you? Guys, it makes my heart so happy when I see just names that I really know. Indiana boy. I haven't really spent much time in Indiana. Got snowed in a blizzard in 2006, maybe? 2007? 2006. I had a friend who was on parole. You know, good friend. Probation. He was on probation. And he wasn't allowed to cross state lines. He'd been allowed to go to California. His roommate got busted for pills, and he had to leave because he would get in trouble. So he called me and said, hey, Rude Mood Hamburg himself. Friedrich. So my friend called and said, hey man, how you doing? Anyway, things are good with me. My roommate got busted for pills and I have 48 hours to leave the state of California or I'll get arrested for being an accomplice. It's like, okay. He's like, hey, would you mind, could you get on a plane tomorrow and then come fly and hang out with me and just help me drive back across the country? And I was like, okay. And it was like right around spring break time for me. And so I called my dad. My dad was flying a ton at that time. And so my dad had points, got me a flight. I flew from Dulles in D.C. to Reno, got into Reno, like literally flew across the country, got picked up at the airport, and then started driving back to Virginia where I just left. It should have taken us 3 days. We got stuck in a sketchy like Motel 8. Bulgaria. That's crazy. Slav is calling from it's coming in from Bulgaria. This is so fun. But yeah, so we got snowed in. Also, I was driving the Jeep with a trailer behind it. Coming in, we were in Indiana or Ohio. I think we were coming into Ohio. And I lost control of the Jeep. We spun a 360 through traffic and a trailer, whipping around, never actually hit anybody. Came to a rest on the shoulder on the other side. And that was just one of those like, oh my gosh, just a like brown pants moment. This guitar is really growing on me. It was weird. I got it and I wasn't totally into it. So anyway, I think it's about time for us to get started. Mythos! Got the 64 LG1. Dude, that's so good. And how's Frazier? Saw your thing earlier about Frazier. Am I still doing the review thingy? We're not going to do it this week. I did 2 weeks and I have more submissions. So I think once this gets up and running a little more, I think we'll do like a recurring segment where I'll do like 4 or 5. They're so fun, and I should go back and figure out what scores I've given. I think the highest score I gave was a 9.2. It was a D18V, it was a LOO, and it was something else. It was J185. It was like a trio where I'm like, this is the coolest freaking acoustic guitar setup. Okay, so chat's rolling. So this is a 1971 Martin D41. We'll talk more about this one here in a bit. But I got this a couple months ago. This, I can all but guarantee that this belonged to an old dear friend of mine. And he left it, well, he intended to leave it to me. I moved away, and so he intended to leave it to me. He didn't. I didn't sign the paperwork. We lost touch. And he passed away while we lived in Louisiana. And a couple months ago, somebody called me and said, hey, I found a guitar. I think you'd like it. He had no idea any of the background. And when I saw it, and I saw on the case it says Shady Grove, or like, it's got a couple letters missing, but it says Shady Grove, which was the name of the property that my buddy Sam owned. And so anyway, this guitar belonged to an old friend, and it's mine now. And so it still needs a neck reset. The action is pretty high, so it gets a little squirrely up here. Not being a great guitar player doesn't help. But anyway. All right. Okay, so you can send a picture to me. You can send it. The easiest way to do it is through Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is the best. I don't check the Facebook. Anyone that has a Facebook Messenger or the business, business.facebook, whatever, it's a mess. So anyway, so let's do announcements first, and then we'll jump into a couple things. So big announcements this week. Sold out of coffee. I have t-shirts for sale, and hang around to the end. Remind me, hang around to the end. I'm going to give away 2 t-shirts, whatever size y'all want. I'll give out 2 t-shirts. I should do a trivia question. Maybe not this week. I'll figure out some arithmetic. I'll give away 2 shirts at the end. So, whoa, $10,000. Okay. So announcements. I have a bunch of really fun guitars coming. First announcement, the audio. It should be really good. I tested it throughout the week. I got a new microphone. You can kind of see it. So it's a great shotgun mic. So this is, it's the case is over here. So the audio today should be super crispy and great. It's from the S-Mic 2 from Deity. Deity is awesome. Literally, like, their customer service is so good. the main mic I use for everything on my camera when I'm out and about running and gunning is the Deity V3 D3. And so this mic broke. I couldn't find him anywhere to buy. I reached out and said, hey, I use this mic every day. I love it. Is there any way you can help me find one to buy? And they said, how about we just send you one for free? So they sent me one with a case over there. They were just amazing customer service. And then the guy who was in customer service actually is a guitar hunter. And she's like, I really like your channel. I'm super glad that you're using Deity mics. Can we send you one for your overhead? Because I heard that you're having trouble with that. Holy cow. So super cool, super fun. They sent me this. It's an awesome case. Great microphone right here. Just out of frame. So that's the first big exciting thing going on this week. Other really exciting things, the garage renovation is going awesome. It's amazing. So if you haven't, check out those videos. And okay, yeah. So make sure that you check out those videos. They're really cool. My friend Caleb is amazing. Check out what's it called? New Beginnings Contracting on Instagram or on Facebook. He's just so fun. He's an old friend of mine. And so the garage, let's see, a week ago yesterday, we did the concrete. And then this week has been a new wall up front. We did wood siding yesterday. I sanded all the wood. Caleb put it on. We put a door out there. There's lights. There's electricity. Today we're putting an outlet in and an outlet out back because I'm also going to put a mini split, a heat pump and air conditioner in there. It's super cool. And that's actually going to come from a great friend of mine from high school around here, a friend of the channel. And I don't know the details yet, but the brand is going to be donating the air conditioner for free. And then a friend of mine, I'm just going to settle up with him. It's my friend Eric. He's a great guitar player. He's usually on these. And I'm just, it's just amazing. So very, very thankful for that. So concrete's done. So the next things to happen by the end of today, the installation will be in. And then from there, next week will be drywall, paint, drywall, mud, tape, paint, trim. So by the end of next week, it should be totally done. Air conditioner may be a little bit after that, but not totally sure. So chat is going great. I can't jump in there or I'll get super distracted. Other announcements. Remind me at the end that we'll do 2 t-shirt giveaways in the US. Sorry. I know it's very hard. I wish I could send them all over the world and I have, but these today are just going to be in the US. And so you have your choice between black, red, or blue. The light blue. It's kind of this color. I'll show you in a bit. What? Okay. Whew. The case fell over. I thought my desk was collapsing. True story. I had a chair in our house collapse the other day while I was holding this D41, which is so stressful. Nothing like feeling like the fat guy when a chair collapses and then also being like, oh shit, I'm holding a $5,000 guitar. So I just grab the guitar by the neck and just raise it up. Both of us are fine. But anyway, it was crazy. So other announcements going on. I got a D18 electric that I'll show off next week. I've got some fun stuff and a bunch of guitars are for sale. We'll talk about more, but let's jump in. So on Instagram, I asked for topics, questions, and I got some really good ones. So we'll jump into those. We'll run those. We'll do questions at the end. And then also I'm going to give away 2 shirts if you hang on to the end. All right. And boom. Boom. Okay. So the first question is, what DC guitar shops would I recommend? Chuck Levin's, Washington Music Center is kind of a no-brainer. They're the best. I haven't spent that much time. So basically, since we've been back in Virginia, I haven't spent that much time in DC. But Chuck Levin's is wonderful. A crazy Chuck Levin story is a couple years ago, I was, it's maybe 10 years ago. The guy that I worked for at the Guitar and Amp Center here in Harrisonburg reached out to the Levins family or whoever owns Chuck Levin's now. And what happened is they were cleaning out an old warehouse and they found, you won't believe this, they found 31, all of the original blackface Fender, like black faces from 64, 65. And so anyway, they had all been in the box. They had never been opened. They were original. And so I rode up there in a trailer with my old boss, and we loaded up, I mean, just these amazing, not even opened boxes of like deluxe reverbs and Princetons and champs. And I guess it wasn't. Yeah, it was a Princeton. And a champ and a Vibra champ and a Vibra King and a dual showman. I mean, just all these cool black faces. So, Super Chat came in. Crocky says, hey, I asked you about the Hummingbird versus Guild D55 the other day. Order the Guild D55. You should. That's awesome. So I'm going to get, by the end of next week, that's 2 other guitars that are coming that I get to play with for a while. I'll get to play with the Guild, the 9-string baritone. Or it might just be the regular baritone. I think it's the 9-string. And then the other one, I'm going to get to play with the Guild D55, which I am so excited about. I think that guitar is better, cooler, more compelling than the D28. Nothing wrong with the D28s, but I just think it's time for another cool player in that space. So I think you can't lose. It'll be so fun and so cool. Okay. So I'll answer Super Chats as they come. We'll do questions at the end. And yeah. So 8-string. Sorry. Taylor does the 9-string. So it's the 8-string Guild baritone, which I'm freaking excited about. All right. So, 12 strings. That makes sense. So Numbers Bud on Instagram asked what my take is on 12 strings or just 12 strings. I love 12 strings. This week I really felt like I really want to own and keep, because I've owned a bunch of 12 strings, and I actually reached out to a guy this week who owns a 12 string that I sold, trying to buy it back, and he'd already sold it and it's gone. He sold it on Craigslist. The number's gone and it's just into the ether somewhere. So my favorite 12 string I've ever owned, it was a 1971 Martin D1235. And so you can see it's one of my oldest YouTube videos is me playing this guitar in the street in front of my old house in Louisiana. I bought it from a sorry, I looked at the chat, I got distracted. I bought it from a pawn shop in New Orleans, and the guy had it for years, and he was looking to just dump it. He's like, I've tried selling this guitar for years. I had $2,500 on it. I thought that was a steal. Never could sell it. He sold it to me for $900, as long as I paid him $200 more for a Randy Rhoads Flying V, which both of those guitars I should have kept. The Randy Rhoads was so rad and ridiculous. Super, very angular V. It was kind of a creamy white, and it had the black, line. It wasn't binding, but it was like just a line painted on it. Super cool. So anyway, I love that 12 string. I wish that I would have kept it. I didn't. And the thing there's one detail that I miss about that guitar, and you can see it in old guitars sometimes when you find old ones. This one had a guy's social security number scratched onto the heel. And I thought that was so cool. Reckless, dangerous, whatever. But I think it's also cool that it's like this guy, it was so valuable to him that he wanted it to be identified with the number that proves that you are a person. So I just love that. That guitar played really well. 12 strings typically play kind of hard, or older ones do. I really love those, but I've also been really torn. I had a Gib, sheesh, brain work. I had a Taylor. I've had a couple. I've had a 555, a real flamey maple one that was too punchy for me. That was great. I think I got that one for $1,100 and sold it for close to $2,000. I sold that Martin for $1,850. And anyway, I love 12 strings. I think they shouldn't be your only guitar. They're kind of like chorus pedals. I feel like a lot of us have baggage and we're damaged by just how frequently we were forced to listen to just over the top warbly chorus. If you grew up in the church, or even 90s alternative just had so much chorus and 12 strings. But I think it's really cool. If you want to add texture, I think they're awesome. So yeah. Justin, that's super kind. So Justin says, do I need a drywall finisher? I don't. Caleb is going to do the drywall. I've done some, but it's such a small space, so Caleb's going to do it. But that is really, really kind. Thank you, Justin. All right. Telecasters. I love Telecasters. Let me grab one. I have 3 Telecasters in this room with me. So this is my 1985 pink Paisley Tele on my Instagram live. On Instagram, I went live the other day and I told the story of this guitar. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should hang out because I go live on YouTube once a week, but it's a little more formal. There's a little more structure on, believe it or not, on Instagram. Whenever I do restrings or just I'm kind of sitting around, I'll just kind of pop onto Instagram live, hang out, answer questions, sing some songs, play some covers. So anyway, so this is a 1985 pink Paisley Tele. This one's made in Japan. I got this guitar after hunting it and asking the guy to sell it to me for about a year in New Orleans. I used to see a guy play this in front of Cafe Maspero in New Orleans, which is a super cool. They do like muffalettas and beignets and all the typical kind of Jackson Square touristy New Orleans stuff. But this guy would always play jazz on this. So he'd always play in the neck pickup, and he'd always play really high. It has a ton of wear up really high. I loved this guitar from the first time I saw it. And I would hang out with this guy, and I'd ask him, like, hey, would you sell this? And he says, no, I bought it in '85. I've been playing it ever since. And, I don't think I'll ever sell it. And then one day, I go and I see him, and he's playing a Midtown Custom or a 339. I was like, what is this? He's like, oh, I needed something lighter, which this isn't heavy. He's like, I just wanted to change it up. So he got a new guitar. And when he got a new guitar, he sold this one. And I was like, who'd you sell it to? I wanted to buy it. And so he sold it to a guy that I ended up becoming really good friends with, to Fogel, who owns Baton Rouge Music Exchange. And so Fogel had this, and I emailed him and said, I have to own that pink Paisley. You say a number, I'll pay it. So I paid $1,000 for this. When I first got it, I was pretty sure that it was, that it might actually be an old one. No, that's not true because it says made in Japan. But I was confused by it, or just I loved it, and so it came with a '70s Fender case, like a logoed case, and then like an orange velvet inside, and Anyway, so this is made in Japan. It's a polyurethane finish. It's also that really like bubble gummy Barbie pink. When I got it, it was not in great shape. It had all the original hardware and the original pickups. And the original pickups were really weak. The neck pickup sounded great. The bridge pickup was pretty boring sounding. And so I ended up switching out. At first, I just switched out the volume and the tone. Or I just switched out the switch and the 2 pots, and then that led to kind of pulling the thread of like, well, the control plate was a different size. I didn't want to ream it out because it was the original small shank, so I kept all the hardware off of it. So I've swapped the plate, and then I also put an electric socket in because that's the worst design on the Telecaster is how they put their output jacks. And so anyway, I put one in here that just screws into the side. It will never come loose. So anyway, I love this guitar. I also swapped the tuners. I have the original. So I have all the original hardware, but I just upgraded it to make it just totally my own thing. Or just a full professional grade instrument. So in it are Seymour Duncan Antiquities. So anyway, Telecasters. Love them. I think they're the most diverse electric guitar there is. They can do pretty much everything you want, which I remember feeling frustrated, or like, I remember feeling frustrated when I realized that a Telecaster is actually pretty good at rock and roll and pretty good at punk, and or like punk rock. Like you could get good, tight, bitey, mid-pushed, Blink-182-ish tones out of a Tele. It just doesn't look right to me. But I love Telecasters. I think I hesitate to say like every man or every person's guitar, but I think everyone should own a Telecaster. What's cool is like, I mean, look at Chapman, look at lots of other brands. Like the T-style is the best shape that they can come up with. So anyway, they're great. They're easy to build. They're easy to maintain. They're very cool. All right. BD, this is live. It is 2:28. I could just look there. 2:28. Telecasters are amazing. Everyone should own one. So, oh, my friend Miles Dakota. His name's not Dakota. Miles Cody Campbell. Sorry, I said your whole name. His social security number is 436. So Miles is one of my oldest and dearest friends. We played in a band. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We were learning to play guitar at the same time. We were in a punk rock band together called Swank. And then we were also in 67 Ninjas together. And so Miles is just an old, dear friend. And it's funny, he knows the answer to this question. So, hey, yeah, Tom, lots of Florida people. That's fun. Man, I'm glad you're hanging out inside watching me rather than being outside at the beach. But anyway, so Miles asked, what was my first guitar? So my first guitar was a Global Classical that my dad had put electric guitar strings on. And so the action was an inch high. It sounded terrible. Wouldn't stay in tune. But through that, I learned how to pick... I learned how to pick Jason Durham in Louisiana. Hey-o. I love Louisiana. So my first guitar that I didn't technically own that one. But the first guitar that I ever bought with my own money is my Tom DeLonge Strat with a Seymour Duncan Invader, which I actually just put back to an Invader, and it is preposterous and ridiculous. But yeah, and then I worked really hard, and so my first acoustic guitar I owned was an Alvarez RD8, which I've owned so many. Tom was out on the boat for lunch. Sly dog. That's awesome. Yeah, this is like our first nice day today. It's like 70 degrees. And so my kids have been outside all day. And I've been out with Caleb doing stuff in the garage. But yeah, my first guitar acoustic was an Alvarez, a Global, and then a Squier. And I still own that same guitar. It's back here somewhere. Oh, it's over here. It's 6:28 p.m. where you are. So that's 3 hours. Where are you? You're in the North Atlantic somewhere. All right. My friend refers to Tele's as the guitar you don't admit you own. I love my 66. And Risley got a thin line. That's a good duo. Yeah, I remember really not liking Telecaster headstocks. Like, I just thought that they were gross and boring, and I didn't like them. And I didn't even like the regular Strat headstock. I only liked the big one. And I think it's just because I loved Tom DeLonge's style so much that's the one that I just couldn't help myself that I wanted. All right. Oh, this is such a good question. Okay, so this is not a D28, but it is pretty similar to a D28. So Blake Russell asks, what are good and bad years for D28s? So let's answer that. Okay, so what makes a D28? Generally speaking, spruce top, rosewood back and sides. On newer, since 68, 69 or so, is Sitka spruce top and East Indian rosewood back and sides. Before 1968, they would have Brazilian rosewood back and sides, still Sitka spruce. If you keep going back into the 40s, it's when you're getting more red spruce tops, so wider grain spruce tops and Brazilian rosewood back and sides. You go into pre-war, 1930s, pre-1939, people are going to call those, proper Holy Grail pre-war Martins with Brazilian rosewood, herringbone tops, and so herringbone binding on the top, and then a red spruce top. So when people say, what are the best years of a Martin D28, typically they're Guitar Peer Pressure would say 1930s, those are the best. So pre-war, that's the thing. People are so convinced that a guitar from 1930, 1977. What year was the first D28? That's an answer I should know off the top of my head. But 1930s, 1937. I knew the D18 was in there. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, I've derailed myself. But as you move forward, you then get into, so those are the ones like, so what, proper pre-war 28s, $20,000-$30,000 kind of starting. I've played a pre-war D18 that George Gruen was asking. At that point, George was asking $75,000 for it. And that was back, I used to go in there a bunch, and he would call me New Orleans. And he had me come in. So it was a guitar that Jimmy Rogers or Buck Owens, one of those guys had played that guitar in the Endymion parade in Mardi Gras, in a Mardi Gras parade in 1939 or 1940 or something. So anyway, so you move forward and Martins tend to kind of drop off in price as they get newer. Still 40s are really hard to find. So 47 was the last year of guitar having herringbone. After that, they went to just being white binding on the top. And so then you see prices drop again. You get into like, $6,000 to $8,000 for maybe 10 or 12 grand for 40s. And then you get into the 50s and 60s. You're going to run, $5,000 to $8,000. Then somewhere between 1968 and 1971, 72, you see a substantial drop in price for D28s. And the quality does change. So by the early 1970s, acoustic guitars seem to be selling fewer. And so lots of people just weren't buying them. And so anyway, all of that to say, in the 70s, all American guitars sucked in the 70s. Gibson, Taylor was technically around in the 70s, I think. But Gibson acoustics are truly awful in the 70s. Martins are bad too. And so that's where this question, when you really get to like, what are bad years for D28s? There aren't really bad years, but there are years where they're going to need some work. They're going to need some TLC. So this guitar is a 1970, and this guitar didn't totally get away. This guitar didn't really get too far past. So the main things that people don't like and that were just kind of wrong about the 70s D28s, 70s D41 in this case, is the finish gets real hazy. So thankfully this guitar doesn't have that problem. The finish is still really shiny and bright and looks really good. But the finish is, by the mid 70s. So my neighbor Jay it's a video I did a while ago about his is a 73 or 74 D28. And so his is just real, like hazy. The other thing is that somewhere along the way, the scale length just got a little off. Their work just got a little sloppy. That's not always true. It's something that maybe message boards would tell you happens all the time. Because every time I buy a 70s guitar on my YouTube channel, I get a bunch of comments that are like, did you take a tape measure and did you measure the bridge? And yes, I did. And they're very, very rarely off. But some are. And so that would make it to where they don't sound very good. The other thing is all Martins before 1984 didn't have adjustable truss rods. Now Gibson was doing this in the 1930s. It took Martin, 50 years longer. To put adjustable truss rods. And so the reason that they say, Dick Boak said a couple of years ago in an interview, was that, they believe that their customers were farmers and, people that didn't move around a lot, they didn't travel a whole lot. And so the adjustable truss rod could save them a little bit of money in construction. And then it also would just make their guitars a little more sturdy, a little more reliable through the ages. I don't know if that's totally true. I don't know if I totally buy that. But it's interesting. So that's why when people say, like, what are bad years for D28s? Typically, they're going to talk about the 1970s, maybe even the early 1980s, because in the 70s, dull finishes, didn't have herringbone, and usually almost always need a neck reset. Like this guitar needs a neck reset. So they take the neck off, shim it back, trim, cut, fit, glue, and get it back together. So then you get into the 80s. The 80s are fine, and they start getting a little better all the time. I think the most affordable Martins right now are 1970s, because you can find a D28 for $1,500, $1,400. It's going to be tricky to get people to sell them at that price, because everyone thinks that they should be worth more, but unfortunately they're just not. So anyway, that was a long answer to that. But that's like the general history. By the 90s, they got a little dorky. It wasn't until the early 2000s. At some point, I think it was in the early mid-90s, they brought out the HD 28. They finally brought back the herringbone. They scalloped some braces. They forward shifted, and they kind of hot rodded a D28. And then people were like, oh my gosh, those are awesome. So anyway, that's a lot of info on it. But generally speaking, the 1970s, 1980s are the down years, and then the great years. I think that guitar has not been better. In 2017, when they did the reimagined D28, it became the best guitar that Martin is making. Just behind the D18, the reimagined D18, those two are just preposterously good. I have a D18, one of the reimagined ones over there. It's an electric with the Fishman pickup. And it's just a monster. Just killer, really great guitars. So when Martin stopped using Grover tuners, well, they still technically use Grovers. The open gears that they use are made by Grover as well. But so like they use these. I mean, they used them until 2016, 2007. They still do on some. And Grovers, I love Grover tuners. I think it's funny. It's a funny thing recently that people are like, oh, they're too much mass. They're too heavy. You should take them off. You should swap them out. I think that's a pretty silly way to spend $150. So anyway, that was a long answer, but it was good. All right, the next question. Rude Mood. Here you go. So this is Friedrich's question. He asked, Fender Blues Junior amps, hit or miss? Total hit. Now they will miss with certain players, but them themselves, they're really steady amps. They sound really good. But the thing is, they are not in themselves diverse. They do a thing. They sound like a clean and overdriven Fender. They can be a little shrill or a little ice picky with the wrong speaker in them. Like, I really don't like the NOS with the Jensen. To me, you'd be much better off putting pretty much any other speaker to get a little more bass, a little more guts out of it. But anyway, love it. Can't really lose to the Blues Junior. They're really great. It's a really great price. They've gone up in the U.S. So for years, I could find them for $200, $250, sell them for $350, $400. But now you can't really find them much less than $350 or $400, and then they're selling closer to $500. So anyway, yeah, and I know you're in Hamburg, so it might be a little trickier finding them there. Maybe, I don't know, but Blues Juniors are killer. This is such a good question. So, and it kind of ties into the Martin, what are good and bad times for D28s. So, this is when buying old acoustic guitars, what should you expect to pay for some common repairs? That's a really good question. Okay, so let's take this guitar for example. So I got this guitar. It had been generally sitting in a case for the last at least 8 years. I know Sam didn't play it very much, so it has sat for a long time. So the first thing that I looked for when I saw it, because this is a 70s Martin, I looked for a crack, and there is a crack right here underneath the B string, and it's just really common. And so I looked for a crack there. That always seems to happen. I'm going to look for a crack back here. Thankfully, there's no crack on the lower part of the guitar. But up here, this one's already been glued. I can feel back there's a little, I don't know what you'd call that, a little splint across that, and it's been glued up. The next thing I'm going to look for on an old Martin in particular is I'm going to look for the pickguard to be lifting up, and this pickguard is lifting up. This one is trying to stab my hand because it's kind of sticking up a little bit. I stuck it down as well as I could, so we'll need to put a new pickguard on it eventually. The next thing I'm going to look for is just look for old binding for a guitar that's been sitting around for a long time. So kind of look at all the binding as I bonk it into the ceiling. It's another good thing about getting out of the basement is I will get out of 6-foot ceilings. Like, that's the ceiling right there. Hey! Tuning in on a Saturday morning from down under. Awesome. So the last thing I would look for is look for binding. So I just noticed this the other night as I went to hang this guitar in a guitar hanger upstairs, is that I saw that both of the pieces of binding on either side of the headstock here are loose. And so they kind of move. So we need to get, I'll have those glued. And then the last thing is, and this is the most expensive. So the crack should be $50, $75 to fix. The pick guard, $30 to fix, or $50. The tuning and the like the binding, not much, you know, like none of that should cost that much. But the main expense is going to be doing a neck reset on this guitar. So that's going to be, I've paid anywhere between $500 to $750 with that. And so what happens, there's a couple things that have to happen in that. So they take the neck off, they readjust it, they reset it. And so there are a couple things that they're going to have to do. The main one is that you're also going to get a new bridge, a new saddle. Sorry, you'll get a new saddle with that. And so it just makes it to where, you know, it can be an expensive thing. And so anyway, it's, nothing is that expensive. Like they're all less than $100, pretty easy. And when you get them paired together, it's like if you take it to a shop and say, I need you to do these 3 things at the same time, they're not gonna like a la carte you. And if they do, you need to find a different guitar shop. And then some of the things you could fix yourself, like I could do the pick guard myself. That's pretty easy. I could probably do the crack because it goes from a brace to the bridge plate. I could probably do that one myself. But anyway, so let's talk about electric guitars. What are common repairs you would need on an electric guitar? If wiring is dead or not working, you're going to need someone that knows how to troubleshoot and how to fix. If a pickup's dead, output jack's not output jack. People have strong opinions about that, so I better get that one right. Yeah, so with that, I mean, $50 to $75. If you got parts that aren't right, if you got a pot, typically a pot's going to cost you $10, and then they'll charge you $10 or $15 to put it in. And so yeah, I mean, nothing is that crazy. So I wouldn't worry too much. The big things, ground issues, those are pretty normal too. If you have someone come and do shielding, most good guitar shops, most shops that are really worth their salt are going to have a price guide, and they'll have a price sheet. So they're not going to like, I would be careful for the guys that are like, you see them doing math in their head, and they're just like, well, I got my electric bill coming up, and I got a boat payment coming, and this guy's wearing nice pants. So $250, I can fix, you know, that ground issue. So look for shops that have, you know, set prices and they have a price sheet. We used to have one, we had a binder so that we kind of knew. And it basically was like, we'd worked out about how much time it took for us, and we'd worked out that typically shop rate is about $60 an hour. And so anyway, so all is well on that one. Yep. You know, most of the parts and pieces. Also, like, if you're into guitars, you should learn how to solder. It's not hard. It's pretty fun. And you can do a lot of cool things. It also allows you to then, like, swap out pickups and try new stuff. So there are some things. For me, I only ever worry about the things that are more expensive, more complicated than I feel comfortable or can do. The other thing right now is I avoid anything that does a lot of sanding, because I mostly, like, YouTube, so cameras and sawdust really hate each other. And they really don't do well with each other. So I avoid doing much sanding around cameras. So anyway, keeping guitars mint or using them carelessly. There feels like there has to be a middle road here, right? There has to be like responsible stewardship of a cool guitar, but also not overly worried about every little ding and dent and fingerprint. I am not someone that keeps something mint. I just can't do it. It's not my style. It always stresses me out when brands send me guitars and say, like, please keep this in absolute mint condition. You know, we don't want to tell at all that you played it. That stresses me out. And I try to be really careful. A couple of things that I've really, you can change your own behavior. So I've moved my keys over to my left side. I used to wear a pocket knife in my pocket all the time, but I just got tired of cutting myself, damaging stuff. Like, I can just keep a razor around for when I need to open boxes and stuff. But anyway, I would just be really careful, because the point of having a guitar is that you play it, right? So there has to be a middle road here. Now, with that, the first scratch, the first ding, the first bonk is always the hardest. And so, yeah, not everybody, lots of people want to own guitars that are like full-blown relics, like heavy relics. But on the other side, you know, people want that closet classic, you know. So, I don't know. For me, I try to find that middle road in there. That's a really cool question. All right, we're back to the beginning. So, that was really fun. That was all the Instagram questions. So now, I'll jump over here. If you have any questions, comments, slanderous remarks, I'll skim through these real quick. So good. Lots of people in the chat today. So Guy Bravada says, I'm thinking about buying an OM28. Not sure if I should buy a modern deluxe series or a standard OM28. Have you played either? If so, which one would you buy? You can't lose with either. That's the best part of this. They're really cool. The modern deluxe, I mean, so Martin is trying to figure out how to have guitars that people love reissues and want old ones and don't want them to ever change anything, but also saying like, hey, but this is the newest, best version of this. So it's the same thing, like, you know, people that buy a Cadillac now, like that's why people loved the idea of like a CTSV. Like it feels kind of old and vintagey, but it also is like awesome, full spec, full throttle, you know. So anyway, it depends. I would play both. See which one speaks to you. See which one you like. I think the modern deluxe is cool and more unique. Lots of people have OM28s, but if you have an OM28 modern deluxe, they're pretty rare. They're pretty cool. Ditch 1221 1221 says, how often do you recommend having an acoustic guitar setup? Thanks. Love you content. A setup. Okay, so acoustic guitars are going to freak out 4 times typically when you get them. So they're going to freak out the first time you go into a cold winter and a dry winter, and the action's going to come down. They're going to get buzzy. You're going to wonder if you lost your money or if your guitar's ruined. You're going to take it to a shop and they're going to be like, it's fine. It just needs a setup. And so they're going to take a little bit of tension off the truss rod. They're going to tell you to keep an eye on humidity. It's going to come back to life and you're going to be like, oh, I love this guitar. I remember this one. And then by the next summer, it's going to freak out another time when all of a sudden the action gets really high and it's spongy and it's hard to play and it sounds thumpy. And you say, what is going on with this? I paid so much money for this guitar. And then you're going to take it back to the shop and they're going to be like, it's fine. It's just really humid now. So, you know, we just need to put some more tension on the truss rod. We'll bring the saddle down and you'll get it back. And so then you're going to get the guitar back that next summer and you're like, yes, this is it. This is the guitar I bought. It's starting to sound better. It's starting to open up. I really love this guitar. And then it's going to do that probably 2 more times. Not as, like, it's a pendulum swing. So it's less energy each time. So the next winter, so this is the second winter you have it, it's going to be, you know, buzzy, but not terrible. And you'll know by then, you'll learn, okay, well, I just need to take a little tension off the truss rod. I can look down the neck. I can sight it. I can see it's too flat. Take a little tension off the truss rod. It comes back to life. It sounds great. Then that summer, you're going to be like, oh, it's kind of spongy and funky and weird. Oh, okay, just need to put some tension back on the truss rod. So that's, yeah, that's the main, like, acoustic guitars probably 3 or 4 times. But you could learn how to do those things. They're really not that hard. Just hang around a guitar shop, hang around a good guitar repair person, and just kind of steal with your eyes. Just kind of watch how they're doing things. And remember that it's just wood. It's really a forgiving medium. And so you'll be good. Yep. That's a really good question. I've meant to, so I have a video on humidity. I meant to make another video, but I got busy. Herringbone. Cats and dungarees art. Well, now I know what I'm going to Google after this. So Katz said, oh yeah, I forgot to ask. Any advice on getting an LGO from 1964? I would save up and buy an LG1 or an LG2. An LGO typically has a plastic bridge. They sound like a shoebox. They're not my thing. I think that they're so... They look cool. I wish they were cool. I wish they sounded good, but they just don't. And so, anyway, that's where I would go. I would look for an LG1, which is ladder brace, so very similar, but wood bridge. The other way is you're starting to see people with LGOs start to hot rod them and ask $2,500. Sometimes they'll take the back off, they'll rebrace the tops, and they'll put a wood bridge, and that makes them sound way better. So, any recommendations on a cheaper version of a Martin OM28? Eastman, the E20. What is that? So Eastman, you can find them in like $1,000, $1,200, maybe even $800, down a little lower. Those are great. So, all right, I'm back down to the bottom. So, yeah, great advice on lower bout damage and keys in the pocket. Spread the word, folks. Yes. Try and just in your EDC, if you're familiar with that phrase, your everyday carry. So like my pockets, man, I have nothing in my pockets right now. I have 2 guitar picks in my right pocket. I have my debit card and some earplugs. Gross. They've been rolling around in my pocket for a while. I usually have a lens cap in my back right pocket and then my phone in my back right. And then I'll have my keys hanging on a carabiner. Yeah, I have keys on my back left. But I've moved all of the sharp, pointy stuff away. I also don't have a wallet anymore because I moved everything to the back of my phone. Yeah, that's good. I mean, because there is like old Martin guitar repair techs will talk about like a key crack. And what they mean is it's on the bottom bout because it's when you lean forward and you put weight from your shoulders onto the guitar and then you push on your keys and it causes a crack on the bottom side. It's terrible. Don't do it. It's bad. You'll cry. You'll be upset. You'll have to spend money. So what's Andrew talking about? Andrew's got something bad with the guitar. Bought a 2021 Les Paul Custom, and one of the posts on the top bar was drilled crooked, and the tailpiece has a slant. Oh boy. It's really unfortunate that Gibson did that to you. I would take it back to whoever you bought it from and ask them to fix it. If not, it's not going to be that hard of a thing for a good repair person to fix. Basically, they'll take it back out, they'll fill it, they'll drill a new hole that's, proper and straight. But that sucks. I'm sorry that happened. Are these still on? Oh, whoops. Haha. Let's see. Stephen Whitney says, have a question, bro. So I'm looking for an electric guitar around $400 to $500. Any recommendations? We live in the golden age of electric guitars, of guitars in general. Pretty much any guitar that you will find in that price will be really good. Heavy hitters for me. All the Squier classic vibe stuff, the Fender Mexican stuff. You can find a used Mexican Tele for around that price or a Strat. And then what's cool about those is they're so universal. You can find parts and pickups and knobs and pick guards. You can find all kinds of stuff to like totally customize it, figure out what you like, where you're like, oh, I really like broadcaster pickups, so I'm going to save up. And so it helps you save up for, $1,000 for a 52 reissue. You'd be lucky to find one for $1,000, $1,100, $1,200. That's a good question, man. There are plenty of really cool options out there. I would check around. If you're into humbucker guitars, you can look for Epiphone Les Pauls. You can find them all over. The other guitars that I really like from them are the G400, the Epiphone. It's an SG, typically a satin finish. They're really great guitars. Same kind of thing. Lots of pickups fit in those. And so you can change and get a lot of cool tones out of them. That's awesome. Steven, Squier Classic Vibe is hard to beat. Yep, the Agile 2000, those are good too. Yep. Look, Tom and I. So Tom is one of my patrons, amazing supporter of the channel, and I love that we're like in pretty lockstep. We, kind of came up with the same answer without even hearing each other. Epiphone Dove, and so Bob has an Epiphone Dove in natural. What are some changes to the nut or bridge to improve sustain? Saddle and nut will help most, and then string choice. I would move over, try phosphor bronze strings, and then get a bone nut and a bone saddle. It's not going to make a substantial difference in the tone of the guitar. I don't think the problem with sustain, the reason a Dove doesn't sustain, is yours maple back and sides? If not, It doesn't really matter because it's laminate back and sides. Sustain comes from glue kills sustain. So if you've got a guitar with, glue in the laminate. So, but cool guitar for sure. Tom, I've heard the same thing. I haven't played any. The Epiphone guitars from 2021 are great. I've heard that. I'm going to reach out to them again. It's been a couple months since I've asked if I can check out some stuff. Used PRS SEs are great too. Best acoustic guitar under $800, $8,000. I'll answer both of those questions. The best acoustic guitar under $800 is probably, this is all subjective, this is my opinion. Early 90s Martin DR2 or DM. Those are awesome. If you can find an old Taylor 210 or 310, that'd be a little tricky. Well, I found a 412 for $800. That's a great deal. They're really great. I mean, there are lots of really cool old guitars. You can find Laraves, maybe not anymore. I think I've raised the secondhand market value of those because I just kept buying all of them I could find for $400 and selling them for $800 or $1,000. And now they're all kind of up there. Best acoustic guitar under $8,000 is a really fun question. Collings D2H, Santa Cruz, the pre-war Dreadnought with the large sound hole, the Tony Rice, the Brad Paisley, all those Santa Cruz. The Thompson, a Thompson 42, humana. Sheesh. Husson Dalton DRH. No, what's their TDR? The TDR would be great. Why does the J45 price ranges vary so much? Vintage versus new. So it ranges because they've made that guitar. It's only had a couple years that it hasn't been produced, like in the early 80s. So it is one of the longest running. They've made that guitar since the 1940s, since like 45 or 46. So they've made them forever, and then with that, they've had different variations. They have the studio, they have the standard, they have the vintage, they have the true vintage, they have reissues, yada, yada, yada. So I would say most of them like J45 standards. Those are the ones that are kind of down the middle. They've all gone up in price in the last year. I bought a J45 at the end of the Dream Guitar Challenge. And, anyway. Okay. You guys ready for... I'm going to do 2 t-shirt giveaways. I'll do easy trivia questions from this show today. And so there are things that I said, and I'll just think back about things that I said. So 2 questions. So the first person in the chat that gets this question right, I'll say here, and then I'll send you a t-shirt. And so I'll send you information to get in. Okay, I'll come back to a couple questions after this. So question number 1, trivia question for a free t-shirt in the U.S. What year is my Martin D41? Da 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 do 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 do. Does anybody have it yet? Let me click back over. Hey-oh, Brian got it right. Brian Biggins, 1971. You did it. 1970. No, hold on. Nope, that's not right. Lily got it. Lily Rex. I'm sorry. Lily Rex got it. It is a 1970. 1970. Lily, can you either tell me, are you going to send me a message on Instagram or you can send me an email? Go to my website and fill out the form, the Let's Talk form, and just tell me, my name's Lily and I won. And then I'll get back to you and I'll ship out a shirt today. Maybe Monday. It's the end of the week. 1970. Lily got it. All right. Question number 2. Let me think through. Question number 2. In what city did I buy my pink Paisley Tele? In what city did I buy my pink Paisley Tele? Where did I keep seeing it? Tom, it's okay. So many details to keep track of. Tom. All right. New Orleans. Tom got it. Elliot Godin. All right. So Tom won the New Orleans. But Tom, you already have a shirt. Elliot, you were the next closest one. Elliot, go on my website, fill out the form, send me an email. If not, it's jeremy@jeremysheppard.com. You can send me an email. So Elliot and Lily won free t-shirts. And also tell me, do you want black, red, or blue? It's a light blue. It's a Sonic blue. I only have those in large and XL. So anyway. Yeah. All right. Let me write that down. Otherwise, I will forget. So, Lily, Rex won a shirt. And then both of you, Tom and what was it, Elliot? Elliot Godin. How do you pronounce his name? Perfect. Yeah, send me a message through the website. All right, gang. Well, closing thoughts. So the garage renovation is going great. It is just full steam ahead. I have another camera out there doing a time lapse. Super cool. There will be another video coming up soon. If you want to support the channel, become a patron. You'll get early access to videos. And this week I did kind of a live stream. It wasn't super exciting because it was me testing this mic. But now I have crispy, great audio, and life is a lot better. And so, good wine, good dine. Okay. So yeah, become a patron. You get early access to videos. I do Q&As. You also get early access to merch. I got some fun, ridiculous stuff coming that I cannot wait for myself, and I think it's gonna blow your minds. Okay. So the other thing in the description down below, there is a donation link. And I've had patrons and I've had friends that want to support and offset, because it's an expensive endeavor, what we're doing, but it's awesome. And we're super excited. So there is a link down there. If you want to give money, you can donate to that. It's through PayPal. And I'm very humbled by that. And it's already been surprised. Tom! What a guy. Freaking Tom. That's awesome. Thank you, Tom, for the donation for $20. That's awesome. Yeah, so you can do a super chat here. You can also do one down below. And yeah, the garage is going to be awesome. I need your input. I need to figure out what I'm going to do on the back wall. And so I'm going to start figuring out kind of some options. By the end of next week, I hope to have the air conditioner in, drywall, painted, trim, and then I'll have to find a rug, and I'll have to do some acoustic stuff. I also know there's a couple pieces of furniture I'm going to need to buy. So anyway, this is awesome. All right, my mouth is so dry. I've been talking for an hour. This is so good. I always love this. I'll jump through and answer a couple more questions. So Steven says, can I do a video on modding mid-tier guitars and setting them up? So I did one that'll come out. If you're a patron, you would already see this. So I modified my it's a PV Falcon from the late 80s. It had really boring Strat pickups. And so I had a set of Migas Touch, which are a channel supporter. They're awesome. And hand wound in Alabama. Greg is awesome. And so I put those in there. I don't cover as much of the details of how to solder or where to put them, all that. I can do that. That content is it's hard to edit. It takes forever to put together. And so anyway, I certainly will try. So Ravi, okay. Ravi says the best $135 acoustic guitar. That is a challenge, man. That's really hard. Because you're buying real dangerous guitars at $135. You are buying guitars that are pretty good at running you off of ever playing guitar again, sucking all the joy out of playing guitar because they don't sound good, they don't play well, they play hard, they hurt your fingers, they hurt your friends' ears, they hurt your heart. So I would be really careful. With that said, I think the Orangewood Oliver Jr. is around that price, $135, $150. I don't know where you are in the world. I don't think they only sell those like in the U.S. So anyway, yeah. So Robert Hatch says, want to give props to Recording King 318. I bought the best sounding guitars I played. I've heard that too. I've played a bunch of Recording Kings. I want one of those, the Dirty 30s. I just think they look so cool. Those are great guitars. So what are my thoughts on acoustic guitars with solid walnut back and sides? I love walnut. One of my favorite Martins that they've ever made was the OMC Claro walnut. It's a sustainable wood grown in North America. It sounds wonderful. Kind of like maple, kind of like mahogany, and it looks beautiful. It's especially if you get really like inky figured stuff. Very cool. So yeah, I would love those. I just sold that Gibson J15 to a friend of mine here in town. Walnut is a wonderful tone wood. I wish more guitar companies would use them. So Ravi in India, I don't know. That's tricky. If you could get one of the Gretsch, how much are those? Oh, what are they called? Those really cheap. The Jim Dandy. If you can get a Jim Dandy, it's a little parlor guitar. I think they're around that price. Yeah, I would do that. Walnut back and sides. Is there a concern for slight mounding on the treble side of the neck of an acoustic where it attaches to the body? No. That's pretty normal, and it's very rare that it would get to where it's affecting like buzzing out strings. If it is, you can do a crown and level, but it's not that big of a deal. Elliot, what a guy. Thank you. What else? So, what are thoughts on acoustic guitars? Just saw you went to the Mississippi Gulf Coast to buy a Martin. Where are you located? So I am based, my wife and I lived in New Orleans or just outside of New Orleans for 6 years or so. We were on the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and I was in a sales gig, covered the South. I love the Gulf Coast, any chance I get to go there. So we were in Louisiana for about a month in January into February. And so we were there for a long time, and one of the guitars I got to buy was down there on the Gulf Coast. I am based now in my hometown in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So we're in the widest part of the Shenandoah Valley. It's a really great place to be, and it's beautiful. It's finally warm. All the trees are starting to bud, and yeah, so we're in the valley. Ravi, the CD60 is a great guitar. If you can get that, because it typically comes with a hard case, those are great. So, all right. Outside of my channel, what are the best acoustic guitar focused channels on YouTube? I love Tony's channel, Acoustic Letter. Tony's a great friend. He's been very kind to me through the years, and he and I have that shared heart of just deep, nerdy love for acoustic guitars. So that's a really good one. What else? I mean, there's plenty. I guess there are a lot of channels that are more focused on electric guitars. I don't see as much of a divide. Like, I wouldn't call my channel an acoustic channel, but I also know that when I do stuff on electric guitars, people don't care. like those videos get many fewer views. Anyway. Kevin! You have a sister-in-law in Mandeville. That's awesome. Yeah, we lived in Covington, so we're right next door. And I had a guitar shop in there. So, anyway. I did not get my Scar on my guitar. It's coming today. It'll be here. I just checked the tracking. It should be here. I have 2 guitars that should be here today. In transit. Out on delivery. Actually, it still says it's in Richmond, which is 2 hours from here. So, might not get here today. But, anyway. Anyway, this is so good. It is time to wrap up. Time to soar off into the weekend. I hope you all are great. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for asking questions. Please go to the website. All that stuff. Have fun. And donate to money to the garage if you want. Zero pressure. You guys are the best. And I will see you so soon. I'm going to get dramatic. my old originals. Let's see if I can remember it. She lit another cigarette cup. She couldn't shake their grip. Days are getting colder. My jacket covers my broken hip. Oh, wake up, son. The day has already begun. There's something bigger. There's something bigger than us. Man, I haven't played that song in like 15 years. I use that riff to show off stuff, but I don't play that song. Anyway, have fun. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all later. You are the best. Go fill the world with music and friendship. I should say that. That'll be the last thing.